You apologized again. You felt guilty again. And once again, you told yourself you were just overreacting. But here's the strange part. This only happens with one specific person in your life. Not everyone, just them. If that sounds familiar, the next 12 minutes were made for you. Because what you're feeling is not a coincidence. It's a system. And today, we're going to take it apart. I'm going to show you 7 specific signs of quiet psychological manipulation. Not theory from a textbook. Real patterns, studied by psychologists, and described by millions of people as simply a difficult relationship. Sign 1. You always apologize first. Sign 2. Your words get twisted against you. Sign 3. You start doubting your own memory. Sign 4. You feel ashamed for no clear reason. Sign 5. You're slowly losing your closest people. Sign 6. You're constantly earning someone's approval. Sign 7. After time with this person, you feel completely drained. By the end of this video, you'll understand whether this pattern has been used on you and what to do about it. Sign 1. You always apologize first. Think back to your last big argument. Who reached out first? Who said sorry, even without knowing exactly what for? If that's always you, it's not just a gentle personality. Manipulators deliberately create situations where you feel like the source of the conflict. The tool is called DARDO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. The pattern looks like this. You say something completely neutral. They react with such visible hurt that you feel uncomfortable. You don't understand what happened, but you apologize anyway, just to be safe. Conflict closed. On their terms. Repeat that 100 times, and a person starts to feel chronically guilty around one specific person. A study published in the Journal of Interpersonal Violence found that in 87% of cases, victims of emotional manipulation identified this pattern as the very first sign they noticed. Sign 2. Your words get twisted against you. You say, "I need some time to myself today." An hour later you hear, "Got it. So I'm just not important to you." You say, "I'm worried about this situation." The response, "You always make everything into a drama." These aren't misunderstandings. This is a technique psychologists call narrative distortion. The manipulator takes your words and reframes them to make you seem aggressive, whiny, or simply irrational. The goal is to make you start censoring yourself, to think 3 times before saying anything, to weigh every single word, as if you're in a courtroom, not a conversation with someone close. When this happens consistently, people go quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're exhausted from explaining themselves. Drop a number 2 in the comments if this sounds like your life. You're not alone down there. Sign 3. You start doubting your own memory. I never said that. You're confused. You're reading too much into something that never happened. If you hear phrases like these on a regular basis, you've encountered what Merriam-Webster named their word of the year in 2022. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is the systematic erosion of a person's trust in their own perception of reality. The manipulator denies facts you remember, denies words you heard, denies emotions you felt. Your first instinct is to start keeping records. You scroll back through messages just to confirm you're not going crazy. That's a completely normal response, because you are being made to doubt yourself. Psychiatrist Robin Stern described it this way. The victim begins to constantly ask themselves, maybe I really am overreacting. And that question is exactly what the manipulator is trying to create. Sign 4. Unexplained shame. Guilt without a reason. This is one of the most subtle signs, and one of the most damaging. You come home after time with this person, and you feel a heaviness. Not anger, not hurt. Shame. Like you did something wrong but you can't quite name what. Emotional manipulators are extraordinarily skilled at inducing shame. It's a technique where the victim absorbs someone else's responsibility as their own. It happens through small signals, glances, sighs,
pauses, tone of voice, not direct accusations, implications. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio described shame as social pain. The brain processes it in the same regions as physical pain. A person experiencing chronic-induced shame will literally feel physical discomfort around the manipulator, and will start avoiding situations that might trigger that discomfort. In other words, they start complying in advance. Sign 5. You're slowly losing the people closest to you. It happens gradually, almost invisibly. It starts with small comments about your friends. Your friend doesn't seem like a good influence on you. Your family is always interfering. You spend too much time on people who don't appreciate you. And then you start to agree. Meetups get less frequent. Calls get shorter. And at some point you realize your entire social world has narrowed down to one person. The same person who was quietly dismantling your connections all along. Isolation is a classic instrument of control. It doesn't only happen in obviously toxic relationships. It can be a friendship, a work dynamic, a parent. The core is always the same. The fewer people you have around you, the more you depend on the manipulator, the harder it is to leave. The louder their version of reality sounds, because there's no one left to offer a different one. Sign 6. You're constantly earning someone's approval. In a healthy relationship, you simply exist, and you're loved as you are. In a manipulative one, you're always needing to deserve it, to do something, to prove something, to try harder. And every time you think you've finally done enough, the bar shifts. Psychologists call this mechanism intermittent reinforcement. It's one of the most powerful dependency-creating tools known to neuroscience. It's the same mechanism behind gambling addiction, the same one used in animal training, and the same one that keeps people in toxic relationships for years. The pattern is this. Occasionally you receive warmth and approval. Unpredictably. Rarely. But it happens. Your brain registers this as a reward, and starts working to get it again. So you try harder, then harder still. And somewhere along the way you realize you've stopped thinking about your own needs entirely. Sign 7. After time with them you feel completely drained. This is the last sign, and perhaps the most telling. After spending time with different people, we feel different things. After seeing a real friend, lightness, even if the conversation was heavy. After a meeting with a colleague, neutral. After time with a manipulator, like something has been taken from you. Not anger, not hurt, just emptiness. Exhaustion with no obvious cause. A feeling that you spent your time wrong, even though you can't explain why. Clinical psychologist Ramani Durvasula described this as an emotional tax. Every interaction with a manipulator costs you resources, because you're constantly monitoring your own behavior, measuring your words, managing their mood. That is enormous work. It's just invisible work. Think about it. Who do you feel lighter around? Who do you feel heavier around? The answer to that question tells you more than any test ever could. If you recognized yourself in 3 or more of these signs, it's important to understand what's actually happening at a psychological level. What we've described today is not just a difficult personality or a bad communication style. This is systematic behavior that psychologists place within the dark triad cluster. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. 3 different profiles. One shared outcome. Manipulation for the sake of control. The narcissist manipulates because they need constant admiration. When you stop admiring them, you become a threat. The Machiavellian manipulates strategically. For them, relationships are a chessboard, and you are a piece. The psychopathy manipulates simply because your feelings don't register as important. But here's what matters most. Most people with these traits are not aware of what they're doing. These aren't movie villains sitting in dark rooms plotting your downfall. These are people with specific psychological patterns, formed more often than not in childhood, who simply interact with the world this way. This is not an excuse. It's an explanation. And it matters, because it means you can stop blaming yourself. 3 concrete steps. Step 1. Name it. Gaslighting, intermittent reinforcement, Darvo. These things have names. When you know the name, you're no longer alone in the room with it. You see a pattern, not just chaos. That alone reduces anxiety and gives you back your grip on reality. Step 2. Rebuild outside connections. Call a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Not to vent, just to hear another voice, Another version of reality. Isolation is the manipulator's most powerful weapon. Take it away from them first. Step 3. Document. Start keeping notes. Brief ones. What happened? What was said? What you felt. Not for a confrontation. For yourself. This rebuilds trust in your own memory. The very thing gaslighting works hardest to destroy. If even one of these signs felt familiar today, this video was made for you. In the next video we go deeper. The full narcissistic cycle. From love bombing, all the way to discard. Why it always starts so beautifully, and why it always ends the way it does. Link is right here. And one last thing. Leave a comment with the sign that hit closest to home. Just a number. I want to know. And so does everyone else reading those comments.